upon
Okay, thank you. So you have seen this morning that extended tools from finite dimension to the infinite one is not complicated, but not totally obvious. And so since I would like to speak of control of PDE and of grid flow of Navier-Stokes equation, with a control acting at the boundary, there are some difficulties. The system is non-linear. We have a PDE. We have a control on the boundary. And first, I would like to explain just by showing you some movie what I would like to do during this series of lecture. So the first experiment is a finite dimensional system. It's what is called the inverted pendulum. So I just show you the movie, and next I will explain. Okay, no, sorry, I have to stop. Sorry, I have to stop before, otherwise I miss something. Okay. Now I can start.
With it?
So it's in French, but you can understand quite. There are two experiments. This is the first one. It's quite short. And now this is the second one. Okay, so what you see in this experiment, you see that in the first one, you start from some position for the pendulum, and you would like to reach another one. So this is a controllability problem. While in the second experiment, you start from the unstable solution, which is the vertical one, and you have to find a feedback able to stabilize the pendulum. It means that you must have some mechanism which correspond to the control of the car, and this mechanism, which is the control, is driven by a feedback law, but this feedback law depends on some measurement that you have on the system. Okay? I can make another experiment in order to explain you. Okay, it corresponds to the inverted pendulum. I try to stabilize it. Okay? I can do that. So what I have a control, which is the movement of the finger. But I have also some measurement of the system, and the measurement corresponds to my eyes. So I look at the top of the stick, because if I look at the finger, the measurement is not good enough in order to stabilize. I can try, and I see I cannot do that. it means that you measure something, but this measurement is not sufficient to estimate the state. It's what Professor Sritaran this morning has explained. So we need some measurement in order to estimate the state of the system in order to predict the movement of hurricane or something else. So this is the estimation process which is needed in the control loop. And I would like to try to explain how we can do this type of process, not only for finite dimensional system, but also for PDE. And we do that. I can show you another movie. No, sorry, no. Okay, I have to stop that one. Okay, I start. So this is a movie. It's like what is explained. It's a flow around an obstacle. Of course, the problem here is simplified because on the boundary of the channel here, we take Dirichlet condition. But in order to let the flow go out, here we take a Neumann boundary condition. It's a bounded domain, but it's more or less closer to the unbounded one by taking a Neumann boundary condition. And so in that case, it is a case on which I will explain many things during these 4 lectures. In that case, for this cylinder, there is some perturbation, but there is no control. While in that case, below, there is a control, and you will see the efficiency of the control. I will explain later. So you see some perturbation here, but due to the control, which corresponds to some boundary condition at the boundary of the cylinder, we can completely avoid these vortices behind the cylinder. So this is the type of control law I would like to explain. And for that, okay, we have to start with some, sorry. Something about finite dimensional system. So the two questions are the following one. The first one is the question of controllability. Can we drive a system, of course a nonlinear one here, from a state to another one? And I'm going to speak only on the second question, how to maintain a system at an unstable position in the presence of perturbation, but by using some control, and the control is in feedback form, and the control law is applied to some estimate of the state. So the plan of the talk will be today the following. I would like to first to present the model. So the first one is a finite dimensional model. And the other one are the heat equation, or the heat equation with convection, or Navier-Stokes equation. And I would like to explain what are the model and what we would like to do. And we will see that in order to find a feedback law, we need some what is called stabilizability condition. So I will explain how we can do that in the case of finite dimensional system, and how we can effectively compute the control. So this is the equation for the inverted pendulums. What we have here, we have a car, and the control is the acceleration of a car, some force here. So capital M is the mass of a car, small m the mass of the pendulum. There is L for the length of the stick. Theta is the angle between the pendulum and the vertical axis here. And the equations are like that. So I have no time to explain how we can find the equation, but it's enough to take the Lagrange, Euler-Lagrange equation corresponding to this Lagrange functional, which is the difference between the kinetic energy and the potential energy. So we write the Lagrange equation in that form, and we obtain exactly the previous equation that we can rewrite in this form. So we can express x second and theta second, and we can write it as a first order system. We are going to see that for us it's very important to write in this form. So of course the system here is nonlinear. So there is some nonlinear term depending on x, x prime, theta, and theta prime, which is what is called the state, and another nonlinear term depending on the control U. Okay, this is the expression of f, and the main tool we are going to use is to linearize the system about the unstable solution and try to find the feedback for the linearized system and try to prove that when we apply this feedback to the nonlinear system, we still obtain a stabilization result, or at least a local stabilization result. This is more or less the program, and it's why I write here the linearized model. I do the same for the nonlinear term. And finally, what I have a system of this form. Z prime is equal to AZ plus BU plus some nonlinear terms. So you have seen this morning how you can solve this. And you can use the Duhamel formula in order to take into account this source term. Of course, yeah, it is nonlinear, so you have either kind of integral equation to solve or something else. Okay, we would like to do the same for fluid flow. And in what I'm going to present, I will present two types of configuration. The first one corresponds to the wake behind the cylinder, and the second one is the control of the flow in a cavity. So the situation is the following one. We have some unstable stationary solution solving the Navier-Stokes equation, but the stationary one. W will be the velocity. So in 2D, it's a vector of two components. So you have seen this this morning. So the W is the horizontal velocity and the vertical velocity in 2D, and Q is the pressure. So WS will be the stationary solution, the unstable one. And if I start with an initial condition which is different from the stable one, the unstable one, sorry, I obtain a dynamical system, a solution depending on time, which is not stable. So the analysis for the disk is the following one. If you have some velocity here, which is prescribed at the inflow, something which is of parabolic type, you have here two vortices behind the cylinder. When you increase the velocity, the size here of the vortices increase, and after if you increase too much, this stationary solution still exists, but it is unstable in the sense that if you have some perturbation, either in the initial condition or in a boundary condition or source term, you obtain a vortex of a shading of vortices. And the goal is to apply some control at the boundary of the cylinder, so it will correspond to some Dirichlet condition localized on the boundary of the control in order to cancel these vortices. And the Neumann type condition at the exit of the channel here is written like that. So Neumann condition for fluid, it's not only the normal derivative. You have to take into account also the pressure, or it can be expressed not in terms of grad Z, but grad Z plus grad Z transpose. So it's a similar thing. So the other situation is the following one, where here we have different type of boundary condition, not only Dirichlet condition here, but also some kind of what is called Navier condition on this part denoted by gamma S here, where the normal derivative of the normal component of the velocity is 0, and the tangential component of the stress tensor is equal to 0. Tau here is a vector tangential. No, it's fixed. Yeah. 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 You obtain, if you do not take this type of condition at the beginning, you cannot impose a uniform profile. You have to take a parabolic profile. And so the behavior is more interesting in that case. So this is the type of solution we have. We have a very thin boundary layer here between the two regimes, the parallel one and the vortex inside the cavity. So you have seen this morning that the Navier-Stokes equation, the stationary Navier-Stokes equation, are of this form. So this corresponds to the equilibrium of forces. This is the conservation of mass, the divergence which is equal to 0. And in that case, here the non-homogeneous terms come from the boundary. And I do not specify the other boundary because we have different type of conditions. So here we can find some part on which we have Dirichlet condition, Neumann condition, or this kind of symmetry condition, which is a Navier type condition. Yes. For the okay, I can answer that. So the control is applied there, and what I would like to explain in the lecture, not tomorrow but the day after, is how we can find the best place in order to be the most efficient as possible. And we will see that it is here for the control. And if we want to make some measurement, it's better to measure here. Okay, and what is interesting is to explain how the mathematical analysis of the control problem can help us to answer this question.
So what sort of control you apply here?
Sorry?
What kind of control you apply?
Here, it's just a normal control, a normal component. but
Injection of the fluid.
yeah, injection, yeah, injection or suction, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, normally we need okay. We need two. Okay, I shall explain why. So, so what we would like to do, we would like to find a control, a localized control. So the control is in a Dirichlet condition. So it's U, and I multiply here by M in order to localize the control. The control is not applied everywhere in the boundary, so M is just a cutoff function, and we need some regular cutoff function in order to avoid some mathematical and instability problem. So, since we look for U in such a way that W tends to the stationary solution when T tends to infinity, it's convenient to write the equation for W minus Ws. And this is the equation. So what we have the linearized part of the equation plus the nonlinear term. And now the control is here. And on the other part of the boundary, we have necessarily 0 because we have taken the difference between the two conditions. And the support of M is on the control part. Okay. We can do the same for models which are simpler than Navier-Stokes and which are also interesting. I can explain what are the difficulties for Navier-Stokes. Okay, so for Navier-Stokes, one difficulty is due to the nonlinearity. So you have a nonlinear system, which is due to the fact that we have z grad z, which was denoted u grad u this morning, but here u is the control. So now, now the velocity or the difference between the velocity and the stationary velocity is denoted by z. So we have this nonlinear term. Of course, we can linearize. And if we linearize, we arrive at the Stokes equation. But as you have seen this morning, is if you write the evolution equation, you see that you have dz of dt, but you have no time derivative. So it's clear that you cannot write this system in the form d over dt of something equal to, let us say, some a, where the something here will be the velocity and the pressure. You have two unknowns, the velocity and the pressure. You have an evolution equation, but the evolution equation is only for z, not for p. Okay? And so one difficulty consists in writing this in this form. So eliminating the pressure. This can be done by using some projection. And so this is one difficulty of the Navier-Stokes system. We have to use what is called the Helmholtz or Leray projector in order to eliminate the pressure. So one thing, we have to eliminate the pressure. And the second difficulty, we have to deal with some nonlinear term. When we have eliminated the pressure, the situation is quite similar to the heat equation. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated, but more or less the analysis for the equation can be transposed to the Stokes equation. And the analog of the nonlinear equation in that case is the Burger equation. So looking at the Burger equation is interesting because we have the same type of nonlinearity, but there is no pressure. So in some sense, we divide the difficulty into two separate things, but it's a model and not a physical model. So the stabilizability problem consists first in we need a system written in this form, either in this form or like that, or we are going to see a little bit more complicated form. So first order equation with a linear part and a nonlinear term, and we try to deal with this type of equation. And for the Navier-Stokes equation, as I have explained, we have to introduce the projector here, which is denoted by pi, with which you can eliminate the pressure. But when you eliminate the pressure, okay, you project the velocity field in L2 onto a space of functions which are divergence free. But also, we will see how, also with the normal component of the velocity, which is 0 at the boundary. So, when you project, you obtain something which is divergence free. We already knew that because okay, we have this, but we have also so easy. We have also the normal trace, which is 0. And with this projector, we can eliminate the pressure, and we can obtain the equation in this form, plus something. Okay. But now, if you have some control at the boundary, the situation is more complicated. Why? Because if the normal velocity of the fluid at the boundary is not 0, it means that when you apply the projector, the projected velocity has a normal component which is 0. So the projected velocity is different from the velocity itself because of that. And so you have to split the equation into two parts. One part for the equation for the projection of z, plus the other part. And of course, you have some coupling in the nonlinear term. This is a specific difficulty of the Navier-Stokes equation with non-homogeneous boundary condition, but okay. Yeah, I've written this because it's interesting, because sometimes I like working with engineers because they have very interesting and nice problem. And but when you explain to engineers, okay, or you need some functional space, some projector, and so on, they answer, okay, forget that, make some discretization, and okay, you have a finite dimensional system, and work with that. And I shall explain you that even if you use some finite dimensional approximation, you recover exactly the same difficulty, but also with the same tools, you can solve the problem in exactly the same manner. So it's interesting to see what you can do to see that even at the for finite dimensional system, you need exactly the same analysis. Not necessarily the same functional setting, but the same kind of analysis. Okay, so I've already explained what is a stabilization problem. There are two types of definition. Open loop stabilization means that you look for you look for control U for which you have some decrease, or you can look for for U in a feedback form. In a feedback form, it means that you would like to find U depending on Z. So in the form, U is equal to some operator K applied to Z. But Z depends on U. So this does not give you the control U. It gives you the form of a control. And if you want to find the corresponding control, you have to insert the Kz here in the equation and solve the equation. Z prime is equal to Az plus Bkz, and you have the initial condition. So you transform the system here, and like that, you can find the control in feedback form. Of course, the difficulty is how I can choose this feedback. Okay. And this is what I would like to explain today, at least for a simple system. So the issue are the following one. We would like to find a control in feedback form. Is it always possible or not? This is the stabilizability issue. If we find some feedback, when we apply the feedback to the nonlinear system, what can we say? Do we have an exponential decrease or not? Or do we have to choose K depending on the nonlinear term F? And is this useful for practical application? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because what happened in application? You have a system, but you have some noise or some uncertainty in your system. But I have denoted here by mu. You can have some error also in the initial condition. And so if you compute the U corresponding to your feedback law, if you insert here, since you do not know the term mu and mu naught, you do not find a control able to stabilize the model with some error. So what we would like to do, we would like to have something more complete. Of course, we do not know the mu and the mu naught, but we can compensate this by some measurement. So we can have some measurement of the system, and we would like to use this measurement and also the model we have in order to find an estimation of the state that I denote by ZE, E for estimated state. And this is the state that we choose with the K here. So in place of writing U is equal to Kz, we write U equal to Kze. And we put this U in the system. And so in this way, we have something which works, like in the inverted pendulum. And I shall explain how we can do for Navier-Stokes. So for Navier-Stokes, what we have some bluing and suction here, some actuator, and we would like to find to have some sensor to measure, for example, the pressure. And we would like to see how we can take into account some pressure measurement in order to estimate the state. Okay, let us start continue with the lecture by Professor Adimurti this morning. What we have? We have a finite dimensional system with some matrix A here. Z is a vector in Rn. And Bu is the part coming from the control. So U is vector in Rm. And so we have to find the solution. And you have seen this morning that you need the exponential of Ta. And the solution here is given by what is called the Duhamel formula in order to take into account the nonlinear term, the linear term, but non-homogeneous, which is here. So you can work either in Rn or in Cn. And of course, you have seen that the spectrum of A play a very important role for the behavior of the system. And so I introduce some notation. I will denote by E the kernel of A minus lambda j for some eigenvalue. So this is the eigenspace. And I also introduce the generalized eigenspace. So thanks to that, we can use the Jordan decomposition of the matrix. So you can decompose into Jordan blocks. And by using this Jordan decomposition, you can find the expression of the exponential of Ta. And you can use this in your computation. And we need this also. We are going to see that we can use this also for Navier-Stokes. Okay. So I do not say more on that. So when you have complex eigenvalue, you can decompose either you can work with function with complex value or real value, and you have to rearrange the definition. So you have to introduce the real generalized eigenspace, which is the vector space generated by the real part and the imaginary part of the complex generalized eigenspace. And we can do the same for parabolic equation. So before speaking of stabilizability, I would like to say a few words about controllability, which is the first question, but for linear system only. In some sense, it's easier. Okay, so we have some operator here, LT, which take into account the control in the system. And you start from some so you start from some state. You are in Rn. This is R2. So this is the initial state. And you would like to know if you can reach another state in time t. So since you have an ODE, a linear ODE, which is reversible in time, you can say, okay, I can start from 0 and try to reach something which is Zt minus Z0. Okay, so more or less you can start from 0. Or you can say, okay, what I can reach at time t, starting from Z0 is the part corresponding to the initial condition plus the image of this operator. And so you understand that saying that you pair the pair AB is controllable at time t is equivalent to the fact that your operator here is a surjective operator. And there is, okay, this is what is written there, and there is a nice, well-known property in finite dimension, which says that, okay, your operator will be surjective if and only if the adjoint of the operator is injective. Okay, so you compute the adjoint of the operator, you make some integration by part in time, and you arrive at this operator here, which is the exponential of capital T, which is the terminal time, minus small t, which is the time variable of A star, applied to phi. It means that you start from phi and you integrate from capital T up to t. You integrate the equation minus phi prime is equal to A star phi, and you apply B star. And this is the adjoint of B. And saying that the adjoint of B is injective is equivalent to finding some constant alpha positive for which you can write this type of inequality. You can find here a lower term of this form, and this is exactly equivalent that to the fact that this operator here is invertible. Okay. It's a positive operator. It's a symmetric and semi-definite positive operator. So the injectivity of LT star and the surjectivity of LT is equivalent to the invertibility of this matrix, and this matrix is called the controllability Gramian of the pair AB. So you see that checking the controllability may be very easy, and there are nice conditions. So I skip that. And there are nice conditions which are known, saying that this operator is strictly positive is equivalent to the well-known condition by Kalman, the rank condition by Kalman, saying that B, AB up to A n minus 1B is of rank n. And this is also equivalent to saying that the rank of the matrix composed to A minus lambda I B for any lambda is of maximal rank. And it is also equivalent, this is very important, to the fact that if you have some eigenvector for the adjoint, and if for this eigenvector the B star is equal to 0 of this eigenvector, then necessarily phi is equal to 0. So all these conditions are equivalent, and they are also equivalent to the fact that there exists a feedback for which you can change the spectrum as you want of your operator, but this type of condition is exactly the type of condition we will need for the kind of condition we need for the stabilizability of Navier-Stokes or parabolic equation. So let us make some computation. For the inverted pendulum, we can explicitly compute A and B by writing the linearization of the system, and we can compute the controllability matrix. We can check the Kalman condition, and we compute the determinant of this matrix and see that it is positive. So the matrix is of full rank. It means that for the inverted pendulum, the linearized system is controllable. It does not mean anything about the nonlinear system. It's just the linear one. Okay, so I have to switch here. And okay, what the stabilization is a completely different issue in the sense that you do not want to go from Z naught to any state. You just would like to choose the control in such a way that the control tends, the solution here tends to Z naught, but when Z of t tends to 0, when t tends to infinity. So you do not necessarily reach 0 in finite time. And this is equivalent to the following fact, but I can explain this in a very easy way. Let us take an example. So let us take Z1, Z2. Okay, the initial condition is given. So what do you think? If I take this system, can I say that the solution will tend to 0 or not? So you have seen this this morning with Professor Adimurti. So you integrate the first equation. Z1 of t is equal to the initial condition, exponential minus, because you have a diagonal system, so minus t, and the same for the other one. So you see that Z1 will tend to 0 because the eigenvalue here is negative, while for Z2 it tends to infinity. So it will go to plus or minus infinity depending on the initial condition. So this system is not stable. Now I would like to add some control. Of course, I have to specify in such a way that I can stabilize. But assume that I can choose this in feedback form. So it means that the matrix that I'm going to obtain in feedback form, this matrix must have this its eigenvalue with a real part negative. Otherwise, of course, this is not a proof, but you can understand with this example how it will work. Otherwise, you go to infinity. And so, in some sense, assume that you have a choice here. So this part is stable. So do nothing on Z1, it is already stable, and try to control Z2, okay? And more or less, this is what is written here. Forget the eigenvalue for which the real part is negative, because these eigenvalues are already correspond to the stable part of the system, and try to find condition on the unstable part. So you have to look at the lambda for which the real part is positive, and the condition which was given previously is exactly the same as before, but okay. So look at that one. This is the controllability condition. And in the controllability condition, I replace lambda in the complex plane by just lambda with real part non-negative. And so for lambda with a real part non-negative, what I ask that if I have an eigenvector here, and if for this eigenvector b star is 0, necessarily this vector is 0. This is what is written here, and it's easy to see that this condition is equivalent to the first and the third one, and we can show that in that case we can find control operator K from Z into the control space U in such a way that A plus BK is stable. Okay, it seems strange, but we are going to see explicitly how we can find the K. So first, let us start with this remark. We know that the system is controllable if and only if the controllability Gramian is invertible. This is the controllability Gramian, okay? But now I write the controllability Gramian not for A and B, but for minus A and B. So because I have changed A by minus A, I put here minus A and minus A star, and I say that the invertibility of this matrix is equivalent to the invertibility of this one. And this is very easy to verify, because if we multiply on the right and on the left by these two matrices, making some computation, we see that these two matrices are similar. It means that they have the same eigenvalue, and for the question of controllability, we have seen that, not that condition, but that one will be satisfied if it is satisfied for the pair AB, it will be satisfied for the pair minus A and B. Okay. And now, okay, what is the interest of that is that if I take minus B star applied to the inverse of the operator, this operator here, I obtain a feedback which stabilizes the system. It means that in the case, of course, in the case when the pair AB is controllable. So I start with a system, pair AB. I assume that AB is controllable, which is stronger than stabilizable. Because if I can control, I can go to 0 and do nothing, and I have stabilized. So this is stronger, but under this condition, I can take this operator, and it's enough with the sign minus. It's enough to stabilize the system. And the proof is not complicated. It consists in showing that this function is a Lyapunov function for the closed loop system. I have not written, I will write later. Okay. So I would like to make some more computation, and so a few words about what I said before. Is it clear, or is there any?
You're studying only the linearized system.
Yeah, up to now, yes. After we will see how we can deal with the nonlinear system. But I would like to say that for finite dimensional system, there are some results about the stabilizability or the controllability of nonlinear system, but there is nothing in the infinite dimensional case.
So if you linearize the system, you come up with a nominal state. How do you come up with that?
How?
You linearize about some nominal state.
Yes, the unstable one. For the unstable state, when I'm interested in stabilizing, I take the unstable state, I linearize around this system. Yeah. Okay, so.
So if it is a nonlinear system, how do you go about it?
Sorry?
In the nonlinear system, how do you go about that? How do you make the controllability in the nonlinear system?
No, what I said. There is no. Okay, there is no general result about controllability. So, what people do when they want to control a nonlinear system, they can do either in a neighborhood of some trajectory. So you linearize the system around this trajectory, and you try to go up to this to reach this trajectory or to any steady state.
So a priori you must know the trajectory.
Yeah, sure. It must be. Yeah, you cannot. Yeah.
So you characterize it through some PDEs, not like
Yes,
specific, right?
sure. Yes. Yeah, so it means that in the nonlinear case, more or less, you can reach something which corresponds to a solution of your system. Or you cannot reach anything. Okay, so I would like to give another characterization of stabilizability and another way of computing a feedback. And so for that, I decompose the state space Z as a sum of the stable part plus the unstable one. So stable means that ZU here, or unstable, is invariant under the action of the semigroup here. And the same for the stable part. And I'm going to use that for the stabilizability. So, corresponding to this decomposition here, since I have a direct sum, I introduced two projectors. The projector onto the unstable part parallel to the other one, and the other projector. So I can rewrite the complete system by projecting here each part. So this is the unstable part, this is the stable one. And of course I have also to project the term corresponding to BU. And what I say the following. I can forget the stable part, try to stabilize the unstable one, choose the control depending only on the unstable part, and put it even in the stable one. Because you have something in triangular form here, if this matrix is stable here, and if this matrix is stable too, you obtain a system which is stable. This is both obvious and a little bit tricky. I can explain. Yeah. Okay. I would like to explain what is here. Now I have the system which is splitted in this form. So I denote by BU the projection of B by pi U. Okay, S. Okay, so the first thing I can do is the following. Okay, choose U, able to stabilize the U. Okay, I will stabilize the U. And if I put this U into the second equation, so I denote it by, let us say, U tilde. I put this U tilde in the second equation. There is no reason to have something stable. Okay, so I do not say exactly this. I say I choose a U which stabilizes the first equation, but I choose it in feedback form. It means that I will take the U, some k, depending on the U. Now, I know that because I choose k in a nice way, the U will tend to 0. And I put this in the second equation. Of course, I have something which may a little bit destabilize, but because the U will tend to 0 exponentially when t tends to infinity, you can use the Duhamel formula and show that you have some exponential decay. If you have, for example, the ET, the exponential of a matrix here, which is less than m e minus omega st. When you look at this system, you may lose here some epsilon, but you can choose epsilon as small as possible. So you may lose a little bit, but very few. So it means that this part is stable. Okay? And this is very important. Why it is important? I can explain how we are going to use that for PD. Because for PD, we are exactly in that situation. Except that this will be still of finite dimension, and this will be of infinite dimension. But don't care, it's not a problem, because I just stabilize a finite dimensional system and I use it in the infinite dimensional one. So I can stabilize like that an infinite dimensional system by a feedback of a finite dimension.
How do you choose k?
I'm going to explain. I assume that I can do that, and now I'm going to explain explicitly how we can compute k. So, taking the same ideas as before, remember that previously we have seen that the W corresponding to minus A and B up to time t give some feedback if I put here, if I take the inverse and if I put minus B star. And what is written here is exactly the same type of result, except that now I take the integration up to infinity. So what is summarized here is the following. Saying that the pair AB is stabilizable is equivalent to saying that the unstable part only is stabilizable. So this is what we have already explained. And it's equivalent. I do not give the proof, but it's not really complicated. it's equivalent to showing that this Gramian here, corresponding to minus, but with AU and not A and BU, integrated up to infinity, is invertible. It's also equivalent to some inequality, which is known as, in control theory, as an observability inequality, an inverse inequality, because it's an inequality obtained for the adjoint system. Okay, we know that this operator is invertible, and if I compute its inverse, I can show that taking minus what is written here, it's the, yeah, okay, this was the previous one. So now I take BU and minus BU star, PU. This is exponentially stable. Okay, you can say, okay, but you have to find this operator and it can be rather complicated. And the answer is no. We can find it very easily. And how we can find it easily? We can show that this operator, not exactly that one, but its inverse, and what we need is the inverse, is the solution to a very special equation. So it's a Riccati equation. It's a Riccati equation, but with which is homogeneous. So it is sometimes called Bernoulli equation because of that. Of course, you can see that p equal to 0, it's an obvious solution. So we need another one, which is strictly positive. And we can show that when the pair AB is stabilizable, we can find very easily the solution to this matrix equation, and I'm going to explain how, and we are going to see examples. And now, if we look for a similar Riccati equation for A in place of AU, we can use the projector and its adjoint here to transform, to write this operator and to see that we obtain a generator here which is exponentially stable on the full system. But what is important is really this part. Yeah, and this feedback, this feedback here has a very nice property. In particular, the spectrum of A plus the feedback can be completely determined in terms of the spectrum of A. I'm going to explain how. Oh, sorry. No. Okay, assume that the spectrum is like that. So you have some unstable eigenvalue. This is the complex plane, the real part, and the imaginary part. Plus some stable part here. So if I choose this feedback, the stable part here is not changed, and the unstable one is obtained just by symmetry with respect to this axis. Okay, so you obtain something here, and here. This is the spectrum, and the corresponding control is the control of minimal norm, able to stabilize the system. So it's given here, but if you, if you look for prescribed decay, in fact, you transform the system by adding some plus omega times the identity. In that case, even if the initial spectrum is there, for A plus omega I, the imaginary axis is moved here, and so the symmetry property gives you this type of figure. Okay, so how to solve the Riccati equation? So a more general Riccati equation than previously is the following one, in which I have put here C star C. Previously it was equal to 0, plus some operator R here, R minus 1. We can take R equal to the identity. Okay. And what we look for a solution for which the corresponding A minus BK minus R minus 1 B star P is the K, generates an exponentially stable semigroup. The assumptions are the following one: AC is stabilizable, and AC is detectable when, but if A has no eigenvalue on the imaginary axis, we can remove this condition and replace this condition by the condition of stabilizability. So one way for solving the equation is to write the Hamiltonian matrix of the system. So it can be shown that the optimality system of some control problem leading to the computation of K is an Hamiltonian system, and writing the corresponding Hamiltonian, we obtain this matrix here, of this operator, and this is a symplectic matrix. It means that it is similar to minus A star. So A and minus A star have the same eigenvalue, and exploiting that, we can show that lambda is an eigenvalue of H if and only if minus lambda is also an eigenvalue of H with the same multiplicity. So the idea for solving the Riccati equation is to look for to solve an eigenvalue problem for the Hamiltonian system. And when we have solved the corresponding eigenvalue problem, so we can find a matrix constituted of eigenvector, and if we so we can rewrite H composed with V and V minus 1 in this form, where the J corresponds to the Jacobian, the Jordan block. It's written somewhere, no. Sorry. And if we write the matrix V by taking here the vector corresponding to eigenvector with eigenvalue with real part, negative real part, we can use this vector, show that this block is invertible, and the P is just some algebraic computation. The B, which is V21 times V11 minus, gives the solution to the Riccati equation. It's just an exercise, and we can do that on different examples. So let us look at the first one. It's interesting. Why? Because here we have a system. We take lambda. We have just a Jordan block because we take the same lambda, and we act only in the second component. And because of the coupling, because we have a Jordan block and not here 0, we can stabilize the full system. So I have written here the Hamiltonian matrix corresponding to this A minus A star. This is the part corresponding to BB star. And this is C star, but I take C equal to 0. So I just look for the control of minimal norm in that case. So I have a 4x4 matrix. I can find the eigenvector. So I can see that minus lambda is, and lambda is an eigenvector of H. And I can compute the corresponding eigenvector and the first generalized eigenvector by solving this equation. So the V2 is given explicitly. And now I take the block corresponding to V11. So I have the two eigenvectors corresponding to the eigenvalue lambda, minus lambda, which is negative. Because I take lambda positive, I take an unstable system. So this corresponds to the V11. This corresponds to the part V21. I make the computation. I obtain the K. And you can check that the corresponding matrix is that one, and it is a stable one. Okay? I'm going to give you, another example which is interesting. So it corresponds to the inverted pendulum, but I have put the car away. I've just taken the pendulum. So I say that it is the reduced inverted pendulum. And I take the linearized system. So the linearized system, since we linearize around theta equal to 0, we replace sine theta by theta. Just the first order approximation. So we know A, and I write it in as a first order system. So I introduce zeta is equal to theta prime. So the corresponding system is theta zeta prime is equal to A, given there, theta zeta, and the B is given there. So now I can do the same, and it's easy to see that lambda and equal to 1 and minus 1 are the eigenvalue of H, of multiplicity 2. But in that case, it's better to make the computation in another way. We can find the stable and the unstable system. Okay? So the unstable system corresponds to lambda 1 equal to 1. It corresponds to theta equal to minus zeta. And the stable part corresponds to theta equal to zeta. And so, writing the system in corresponding to ZU and ZS, so the stable part and the unstable one, in that case, correspond to rewriting the system for theta plus theta prime and zeta minus theta. Theta plus zeta and zeta minus theta. So you can rewrite the equation like that. So this part is the stable one. Yeah, the stable one. So what I would like to do, I would like to stabilize the unstable one. But now the unstable part is of dimension 1. So it's just a scalar equation. And so in that case, the Riccati equation is very easy to solve. Why it is like that? Because, okay, this is the state, so it means that ZU prime is equal to ZU. So the A is equal to 1. So AP plus P A star, but A star, we have a scalar, A star is equal to A is equal to 1. So this corresponds to AP plus, or A star P plus PA, 2P. And the control part, minus P, B, B star, P. B is just a scalar here. It's 1/2. So B star is 1/4. P, B, B star, P is just minus B squared over 4. And I look not for all the solution. I look for the positive one. So there is just one positive solution, which is 8. And I can find the control here in feedback form, in the form minus B star, P, Cu, the stable part. So it's just in this form. And when I insert in this system, I can come back to the system in theta and zeta and find this system. Okay? So I have finished the first lecture, but at the beginning, Shital asked me this lecture of 1 hour. Okay? So I have prepared 6 lectures of 1 hour. Okay? So this is the first one. Of course, I'm a little bit late. But now I have to put 6 lectures of 1 hour in 4 lectures of 1 hour and half. So the half hour is just 5 minutes, but I can, you are not too tired. I can start a little bit the second lecture and continue tomorrow. It's okay or not? I can take, yeah, 10 minutes is okay? I continue? I don't know. It depends on you.
The students vote.
Yeah. Okay.
So what is the timetable? Maybe we got confused. So I thought Suresh was going to talk. So you want to speak a little bit more to give a structure, is that it?
No, I think it's good to take the. I have some. Okay, 5-10 minutes now.
Yes.
Okay, so I continue.
Just one question.
Yes.
Going to this. So you linearize it and study it. Yes. Is there a way to do this for non-linear system? For this pendulum, please.
Yes.
Can you do the stabilization?
Yeah. Yeah, sure, it's done. And what you have seen in the movie corresponds to a feedback law computed with. Okay, I answer completely your question. So what I'm going to present in this lecture is some result for the feedback stabilization of nonlinear system, but using a linear feedback law. This is a first step, and with the time I have, and maybe with what I know, I cannot do better. But we can do better in the sense that we can improve and we can find some, in some cases, and in particular for Navier-Stokes, because the nonlinearity has a special structure, we can use some nonlinear feedback law, which is generally designed from the linear one, but with some nonlinear corrector.
So you may not block it. Not off. Just stabilize.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. If you try to.
Stabilizing control.
Yeah, it's a stabilizing. If you look for a minimization problem for nonlinear system, okay, it's what you have said this morning. You have to solve Hamilton-Jacobi equation, and for example, some nonlinear feedback law are obtained by looking due to the special structure of nonlinearity in the equation. You can look for some expansion of the solution to the Hamilton-Jacobi equation. So the first term of in this expansion of the Hamilton-Jacobi equation corresponds to the Riccati solution, and the second one, which is a nonlinear term, can be very easily computed with the first one. So it's a correction depending on the nonlinearity and on the solution. But of course, it's an ansatz. If you want to solve the Riccati equation, cannot be solved for dimension higher than 2, 3,
Yeah.
more or less. Yeah.
No, the linearization of the Hamilton-Jacobi is the Riccati.
Yeah.
Right?
So in that case, you can go up to
The idea is that
1,000, 10,000. Now there are some very efficient algorithms.
so instead of using the full nonlinear Hamilton-Jacobi as a first approximation, you
Yeah.
use the Riccati, right?
But
Yeah.
even beyond 4, I do not know.
Study the time-independent Riccati equation in the Kalman filtering literature, and also
No,
I
but
think it's
yeah.
close to 1,000. Yeah, but
No, but it's different. It's an iterative process.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something which is
time-dependent is different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's very complicated to solve. Yeah, yeah. So maybe what? Okay, I can. I have answer. Sorry.
We asked for, I think, pendulum. Yeah, I asked for the pendulum.
Yeah, no, so in the case of the pendulum, there is still now a huge literature on the, yeah, it's, yeah, finding some feedback law showing, looking for stability, because, okay, it's just a part of the picture, but people working in automatic, they look for law which are robust to perturbation and so on, so you can improve. Even when you design some feedback law for command of aircraft, for example. Even for aircraft, they do not use Navier-Stokes coupled with the elasticity equation and so on. They take a model corresponding to less than 20 unknowns, and they have some measurement about attitude and so on, and they even and the tools which are used in the real aircraft are very elementary feedback law, but robust one. And even for a system corresponding to size 20, yeah, people work on that, but they look for yeah, law which are robust and so on. Maybe, okay, I would like to say a few words. Just present the okay. The idea here is to okay, what I can do is the following. There is some difficulty, and I think it's interesting to think about that. Okay, we have now nice tools for system of this form. Z prime is equal to AZ plus BU. We have seen what we can do. In that case, Z and A and B are vector and matrices in a finite dimension. Now I take a very simple equation. dz over dt, the heat equation in 1D. Okay. Okay. we are going to see if we have followed the lecture this morning. So some exercise, okay? Okay. What is the solution? It was given this morning. What is the solution of the equation? Who can help me? I know that you know. Yeah. So we can express the semigroup corresponding to this equation by using Fourier series. Okay, so either using Laplace transform or we have to find the eigen value and eigenvector corresponding to this problem, but with the boundary condition of the system, and it is well known that you find the function ek corresponding to sine function k pi x, and if you normalize, you have a root square of 2. So this is the ek. It means that by looking at the eigenfunction and eigenvalue of this operator with the boundary condition, you diagonalize the operator. So it means that if you look the solution in series, okay, here the lambda k is k square pi square, and k varies from 1 to infinity. Okay, so you look for the solution in as an expansion of this form, and you can expand also. So the nice result is that this family is Hilbert basis of L2, because you have a self-adjoint operator for which the inverse is a compact operator. So you have a compact symmetric operator for which you can use the spectral theorem for this type of operator. And so expanding here the initial condition, you know that the solution which was given this morning is of the form exponential minus lambda k t. So z naught ek, the inner product in L2 ek. Okay? This is the solution, and this is exactly the expression of the ETA applied to z naught. Okay, now I transform a little bit the problem. How do you solve this equation? Now I put some control on the boundary. And I would like to write this system like that. It's not obvious, and so why people wanted to write like that? Because they wanted to extend to infinite dimensional system what was known for finite dimensional one. Okay. What you have seen this morning, you have seen that one nice tool is to use some variational formulation. It means that you multiply by v. I'm going to call the v phi. Okay, I multiply by some test function. I integrate in space. Okay, so I have dz over dt here, and I take a test function as in the stationary case, only depending on x. So phi dx. And now I put this on the other side, and I integrate by part here. So I have dz over dx